Last session we started this conversation around trying to restructure our code using methods. We want to make some changes in the way that we code. This is not going to change any way how the user experiences when the user interacts with the application. Anything that we are going to do here is related to background, is related to how we develop the application. Um, the goal here is that we build the application that is much easier to maintain and scale. One of the ways that we're going to achieve that goal is using methods for creating a small chunks of code and basically packaging them and then reusing them. That makes it much easier to reuse different part of the code that we've developed and also stop just repeating ourselves over time. The other reason is that we want to create sections or small part of code, chunks of codes that are that separates the concerns or apply this concept of separation of concern. We want to look at our code and try to separate our code into three layers: data layer, service layer, and UI layer. The data layer is the layer or basically part of the code. When we look at it, we are trying to read and write to the database. When we look at the code and see we are loading the information from the database, that's related to data layer. When we look at the part of the code and see that we are recording data to our database, it's again data layer. So that will give you an idea what to look for in your codes. Look for any part of your code where you're actually recording information directly. So there is no other thing else. You're just directly recording the data into your database. Here, our database is a JSON file, but it's a database for us. And then loading, and anytime you're loading the information from your database, that's your data layer. Then we want to look for our service layer. Usually, I think this is the most challenging one for most of us to distinguish between service layer and UI layer. Hard to distinguish them sometimes because the line sometimes gets a little bit unclear. But this is what I ask you to look at. When you look at your code, look at the set of lines of code and say, can I categorize these lines of code into a specific category? Can I collect these lines of code, a few lines of code, and place them under a category? For instance, I have 5 lines of code. What they do, they search through the orders and find an order that is placed by a specific customer. So find an order for a customer. Find orders for a customer. That I can actually place it in a box and say what this box is doing. Whenever I use it or whenever I reach out to this part of the code, it does a clear job. What is it? It is finding orders for a customer or finding an order based on customer ID or for instance, customers from a specific city or a state. So when you can define that exact task, then you know you're dealing, and that includes some logic, some search, that includes a service layer code. When you're doing anything except either it's recording the data or UI layer. Actually, UI layer, I think it's a little bit more simpler to identify because whenever we talk about data in UI layer, you're saying anything that the user is directly interacting with. That's UI layer. Any code that indicates something that the user interacts with. In our case, it's much simpler because anytime we see ST, that's the UI. SD dot, because we are using a streamlet for our UI design. So any lines of code that goes back to a streamlet is our UI layer. So if you can separate that and separate the data layer, then you're probably more in a much a better place to identify the service layer code. We want to build this architecture. We want to have 3 layers. One is the front layer, front end, or the UI layer. Then we have a back end or back end layer, back end code. In the back end code, we have 2 layers: service layer and data layer. One thing we won't cover here is something, I don't know if you've heard the idea of APIs. These are usually a layer between UI layer and backend layer. So what they do, they allow you to build a more scalable applications. However, we are not going to cover that in this course. We're just gonna stick to this simpler design and build our application. Our focus is minimum viable product here. We talked about defining methods, right, as a review of how we define methods, using a def keyword, and then the name of the method, then method parameters or inputs, and then method output. Does the method have an output? Is it going to return something at the end? If yes, then you'll specify a return. And then calling a method. Anytime you want to call a method, you can use the name of the method and then pass the information. Meaning that when you define it, you specify the parameters. You said, in order to perform this task, in this case, calculate grade, I will need the points earned and points possible. Anytime you're calling me, you pass this information to me, I will calculate it. But I need those 2 pieces of information. So whenever you're calling the method, you're passing those 2 pieces of information. Methods also do other or help us achieve another goal. When we place codes inside methods, we're kind of encapsulating things. So we're saying, I don't care what it happens or how this task is being done. I don't care how you calculate the grade. I just want to use it. I want to use that method to calculate grade. What is happening inside it and how it does it, I don't care. When you're using it, That is one of the best features of this type of design. You build designs so later you can use them without actually wondering what is happening inside it. Okay, maybe someone else has developed that method. You're just calling it and using it. You don't want to know how it's built, or you don't care how it's built. You just need to use it to achieve your goal. We wanted to start from here. We want to start refactoring. The first step we want to extract the data layer. So I actually want to take this a step which I wanted to do I should have done also in the prior session. So let's create a new code, new Python file here, app module 5 refactor.py. Okay, so I named it app module 5 refactor. So I want to keep the older code and then build a refactored version. I think this is a better way to cover this topic here. Let's go back to the to module 5. Okay, we are going to just simply copy this inputs here, imports into refactor. So I only added the imports to the refactor version. I'm going to start from data layer. So I will add this data layer. And then I will move on to service layer. Then I will move on to UI layer. Data layer, service layer, UI layer. First, I want to focus on identifying the parts that we have related to reading information from the database or loading information to the database. So if I go over my code, the first part I find it here. What do I find? Here, I'm loading the information from the database. Is that correct? I get the path, which is JSON path, indicates where that file is located. I check whether it exists. If it exists, I load it. I collect it, I read it. So with that, I want to define what it does. It loads the information. So I'm going to define a method, load data. Load data. Then add a colon. Load data. That's my first function for it, data layer. The code, the task should also make sense here. So I can copy it and paste it inside the method. Inside the method. We want to define this method so that it loads the data. Now you can see when I added, two things don't exist. First, JSON path doesn't exist. And then also the list of assignments we loaded, but what do we do with it? So it doesn't exist because no longer we have this, because it was a public code. Here, when we define the method, I'm going to pass that information. Say, get this, get the JSON path, get the path, and then check if it exists. If it exists, load the information. So whenever I call, I will provide the address to that database. You can check if it exists. If it exists, load the list into the assignment. If it doesn't exist, then you can put the assignments as an empty list. So we store in the assignments. But here's the thing. From now on, we're dealing with methods. We're building our code based on methods. When you define a variable, here we define the variable, or we have a new variable assignment. Inside the method, it is local. It only exists inside the method. It doesn't exist outside the method. So that's why we have to have a return to say, when you have it, then return it to me. Wherever I called it, just return the list to me. So the method is going to return us the list, whether it's empty or whether it is it exists and we loaded the information. Any question? So we define the method which is going to load the data. It will get the path and then it checks if it exists. And if it exists, it will record it. Let's go over the rest of the code. Look for data layer. So we found the load data. We should probably have a place for recording the data. If you recall, what is this? This is exactly the part that, again, you're directly interacting with your database. You're recording the information. This is again related to data layer. So I want to take this and I want to actually create a method for this part. Again, it's a data layer. So I will go back for the data layer, define this. What does it do? What does this line do? It opens that path and then or basically record or save assignments. Save assignments to the database. So I'm going to go back here in the refactor version, save data. So this method is going to, when it's called, it is going to save the information. Now, let me copy this part. This is our save, right? Open it and save it. Then I can move it here. Copy it and move it and add it to the method. Now, two things are unidentifiable. They don't exist. It also gives you the idea of what are the method parameters, what you need to add as a parameter to make them identifiable. To say this assignment, this save method is telling you with this that, hey, I need to know where I'm going to record that information and what is the information I'm recording. So you need to give me the assignments list and where I'm going to record it. If you give me that, then I can record the information. Then I can record the information. When you close these methods, it should give you an idea what they do and what they want. To load the data, you need the path. You need to know where it exists. Save the data, you need to know where you're going to record it. In addition to that, you need to know what you're going to record or what is the information you're recording. If you have that, then you can perform save data. Again, when you close it, just remember, this is the idea. So you can encapsulate, hide actual way that you're performing a task inside methods. So that people don't worry or don't pay attention to how you're actually doing that, but you can use this methods to perform a task, okay? Basically like, hey, I think maybe, I don't know if that's the right example. You take your car to the mechanic and say, fix it. I don't care how you're going to fix it, but I know you can fix it. This is the car, fix it and return the fixed car. What happened inside this, we don't know. But we gave the car and then we got the car fixed. That's exactly how methods work. We don't know how they do it, but we know what they can do. Here, they can load the data. So we will give them the address, they load the data and give us the data. Okay, so that's the idea behind this type of design, that we create this small chunks of codes and place them inside this methods or these categories, tell them specify a name for them, then start using them without worrying how the actual function is being done. Service layer. Let's look at our code and look for any type of logics or any thing related to searching, finding, or actually performing a task. Here, if you look at this code, what are we doing here? We are adding, I'm going to add a comment here. Would you say this is add new assignment to the assignments? Is that correct? This chunk, even if it's like one line, what it does, it is adding the new assignment to the list of assignments. I wanted to try to make sure, place important as inside methods. So here, for me, it's not UI, it's not data layer, So I will categorize it as service layer. It's a service. One of the services is that it can add a new assignment. One of the services could be that it edits an assignment. It shows assignments, like or finds a list of assignments. So we find those tasks and try to place them in the service layer. So what I'm going to do in the service layer, define a new method, add new assignment. Add new assignment. Add new assignment is going to perform this task. So I'm going to copy it, copy this, and then place it inside this method. Let me remove this. I'm going to remove them later, okay? So first thing, it doesn't identify the assignment. Because assignment doesn't exist, it's no longer a factor we know. So it says, if you want me to add a new assignment to the list of assignments, give me two things. Give me the list of assignments and give me the information about the new assignment. That's how I can add the new one to the list. So what I need to know, I need to know the list or what data you already have, this assignments, and then the information that we are going to use here. Okay, so in the method, we are not going to use session and state anymore. This is just cleanly is going to add the information. So you want to know title, give me the title, give me the description, points, and type. Then I will add this here. So if you pass the information about the new assignment and also the list that you already have, I will add the new information to the list of assignment. You can see that we did this locally, like inside the method. It's better to create the ID inside wherever you're attempting to record the information. So create that or generate that ID locally. You don't want to pass the information. When you did that, again, you want to return the updated information or updated assignments. Does it make sense why we are returning the assignments? Because we don't like now in the old version, we would define the assignments inside the code. So it would be a public variable. Everyone had access to it. When you start building applications using methods, in most cases, these variables are not defined outside method. They are local variables. So anytime you want them, you will pass them, and if anytime you make changes to them, you want to tell the method, make the changes, but return the updated information. So when we pass the information to this method, add new assignment, it adds the information to this list and returns it. Here's the thing. If you have this code and I ask you to add a new feature to the assignments and then update this code because we want to add a new feature. basically the teacher asked us to add extra information. So we will add this text box to the UI, and then you will have to change the code. How long does it take for you to find that part that you're actually recording this? So you say, I'm going to start here and go through the code and find out where I'm actually recording it. Oh, okay, I found it. This is where I'm adding the assignment, so I'm going to change it. I'm going to add a new thing here. For instance, you don't need to add it. Just say at some time comes and you're saying that you want to add some new things here, 0.2 or something like that. But how long did it take for you to figure it out? Now, I will tell you this. I've had code that it was 3,000 line of code in just in one file, 3,000. Now I tell you, go and find the 3,000 lines of code wherever that actually is being done. It is going to be a difficult task to do. On the other hand, I tell you this. Okay, I give you this and I tell you, add this new feature where you record it. How long does it take for you to find out? You know, there is one method when you add new assignment. Now you can open it and make the change. Okay, so that's the difference. When you build applications, build systems, when you create them with the right design, it has significant implications in many aspects, from how you maintain it. So something happens and you have to make changes to it, to scale it. If you want to scale this type of design, it is going to be a lot of work. It is going to take a lot of time and it's going to be a lot of work. But here you can simply reuse your code. Scaling happens when you can reuse your code. When you extract everything, when you create modular applications. Every one of these is a module. I think of it as a module. Let's say there is a small module here that does save data, and then one small module load data. There is a small module here, add new assignment. So each one of them are clearly performing one single task. Now, we don't have any service layer here anymore, so we are going to get to the data layer or UI layer. So UI layer, how many UIs we have? How many UIs we have in this application? Do you recall how many UIs we had? We had add new assignment, edit assignment. We haven't developed it yet. Assignment dashboard. Is that correct? So for each one of this, let's define a method. This method is responsible for rendering it, rendering that UI. So I'm going to call this define or div. What is that? Dashboard. Okay, render. I'm going to render it, like use render. So I remember this is my UI method. Render dashboard. Render dashboard pass. Render add new assignment. Pass. Render new assignment and then render dashboard, right? So I have two UIs, I have two renders. Now, let me go back here. I'm going to replace this pass in the render dashboard with the dashboard. Here, if I look at my code where I do the dashboard, this is my dashboard design. I have code, I have a streamlet. Okay, I don't see anything related to either data layer or service layer directly inside the code, not calling them methods directly inside the code. So I don't have it. This is my exact, the whole lines of code. These codes are my dashboard. So I'm going to place it here. So I'm going to place it here. So this is render dashboard. Columns we have two columns, and then here, and then with the container, we show the assignments. It shows me an error. It just tells me that this, I don't know this. That tells me whenever I call this method, I need to pass that information. Assignments is no longer a public thing. It is a local thing. So I need to pass the assignments. I need to pass the assignments list so it can render that information. Your codes become bigger and bigger every day. In order to maintain them, you have to refactor them in this type of a style. So you can simply find what you're looking for and make the changes to that exact parts. A lot of time, you don't go every day and change your data layer. You don't go every day and change your service layer, but you constantly try to change your UIs to make them better. So if you have this, you can simply go to your code and say, I want to change only my UI with the dashboard. I can like quickly know where I'm going to make my changes, and the changes have to happen here. And then you can simply change them. Now, let's go and actually implement the add new assignment render. We have already have it, so it's everything is under add new assignment. Under that page, add new assignment, that's what we render for add new assignment. So I'm going to copy that part from here, from call1, call2, up to st.rerun. And I'm going to place it in add new assignment. I'm going to place it in add new assignment. Add new assignment. Then I can see that I have a few things here. I have assignments.append. This is my service layer. I already have a method for it now. I'm going to remove it and replace it. So here, I'm going to replace this by calling that add new assignment method. Add new assignment method. We already defined this method here, add new assignment. So I want to add the new assignment. What I will pass the assignments, and I will pass the information about the new one, new assignment. So which is title, it is description, it is points, and it is assignment type. Assignments. So I place the actual way it is being done, the add new assignment with the method, I don't know how it's being done, but I know I can pass the assignments and then the information about the new assignment. And then that method will perform the task and return the updated assignments. Here, I'm seeing this error again, which again indicates assignments is not known to me. So when I render here in the method, one of the inputs or one of the parameters I will need for this method, add render add new assignment is the list of assignments as a parameter. And then you can see that here, render new assignment, and we don't have that error here. Now, Let's move forward. What is this? This is our data layer. We already have a method for it. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to replace this. I'm going to replace this with save data. Save data. Now, save data requires us to pass two pieces of information. One, assignments, and then where we are going to record it. So assignments and where we are going to record it. JSON path. We don't have the JSON path here, so it tells me actually I need to, one of the other things I'm going to add here is that JSON path, an input for the method, and then I can pass that information. So first, let me tell you two steps. First, add render, add new assignment. This is our UI layer. We are going to give two parameters, assignments, and then the JSON path. Render, assignments, and JSON path. And then here, what I did, I made two changes here. This was my service layer. This is my data layer. So I don't do that here. This is my UI layer. I don't do service layer code or data layer code here. I've placed them inside methods. The only thing I'm going to do, I'm going to call them. I'm going to call them methods. Let me now close this method and let's just look at this code. What do we see here? Do we see any code? You're just seeing titles. You're seeing titles. That's that's one of the features of this structural design. But when we look at the code at a high level, you just see the titles, and that's how we can identify what this application is doing. Load data, save data, one service. This application doing one service, add new assignment. This application has two UIs. One is dashboard, one is add new assignment. If I'm starting my project or like my job at this company today, they give me this code. I look at this code, I can quickly understand it. I can quickly say what it does and how it does it. But when I get the other code, then I have to sit down for hours to try to figure out what we are doing here. Does that make sense? Do you see the difference here in application, in the way that we design the application? You still have one more step. So we are moving our codes. We are moving our codes into methods. Now we've moved most of our codes into the methods that each one of them perform this. But it's still, there are some parts we actually don't have it here, which is now, where do we actually check where we are? Like here, this code, where does this code exist? If the page is a dash assignment dashboard, then it should go to dashboard with this new assignment. We want to place this in another method. Let's call like something like an orchestrator. This will orchestrate everything for us. So I'm going to create a new method here. Name it. I'm going to just name it main. A common practice. main. This is our main orchestrator or main method, which kind of knows how to orchestrate this complete modular application. Each one of these are performing one task, but someone has to actually manage them to know when to use each one of them, when to render dashboard, when to render add new assignment. That's what the main method is going to do for us. So a few things I want to add here. One, this was from here. So I'm going to copy this part here. Okay, so these are the codes that are left and they weren't placed in any of the methods. So let me place them inside the main method. So set page config, set page title, st.title, the divider. We also define this assignments and then the JSON pass. Then let's add the next part. This is about session statements or initializing session statements. Initializing session statements. These shouldn't be part of inside any of the other methods. They should be part of the orchestrator to initialize whenever it's starting the application. That's the one that is responsible for starting this session state keys. Now, the last part. Here, do you see this? After defining or initializing the session state, what we would do, we would check the session state pages and based on that, render the UI, right? So let's do the same thing here. If st.session state page is assignment dashboard, if it is assignment dashboard, what should we do? Should render dashboard. So we should render the dashboard. And in order to render the dashboard, we should give the method the list of assignments. And then force a rerun. Don't forget that part, st.rerun. st.rerun. Render the dashboard, st.rerun. Let me double check this. I want to make sure that okay. I will check this. I'm not sure if we should have the st.rerun here or not. Let me check it again. Next, else st.session state page. Yes, okay. So I'm gonna remove this. I just understood. So when the assignment dashboard is actually the page is called dashboard, we will render it. We no longer call the rerun. It's already been called. And when the page is checked, we actually only render it. So when the page, sorry, is equal to add new assignment, Then we render add new assignment dashboard or add new assignment. Want the assignments and then JSON pass. For now, we can also add else elif st.session state. Page is the last one was edit assignment and pass. So let's review this orchestrator, right? It sets the page config, and then it specifies the database or it starts the database. And you can assume this like wherever this database connection starts. Here we have the path. Then initializes the session state keys. Then depending on which session state you want to start here. Here we only have pages, right? We don't have rule-based routing here. We don't have multiple rules. If you had rules, then you would start from the rules. We don't have them. We have pages. So it starts from the pages, checks what is in the session state, and based on that, renders the UI. Based on that, renders the UI. And you can see that here again, render dashboard. I don't know what is in the dashboard. I'm just calling it and passing the information, and that method knows how to design or like show the UI. Here, render add new assignment. Again, here I can only call it, and I don't have to worry about what is inside the code. This much simpler to understand now. We don't have everything in one place. That's why it's called, like they say, like a pizza, you put everything in it. No, you want to exactly separate layer of add layers and then use this method design. The last step here. Now, just look at this broad picture or overview. What do we have? We do not have any parent, any variable outside the method, right? Everything now is placed inside a method. Methods only start work when or can work when you call them. When you call them. Now that we place everything inside methods, nothing will work because everything is inside a specific method. So we want to call one method, and that should start the application. Which one is it? You want to call the orchestrator and say that's how the application is going to start. We want a starting point, and that's our orchestrator. How do we call it? Let's go at the end. This is the code, right? So let me show it to you. Where are my notes? Okay. When we want to call that orchestrator, simply this is the code in order to make sure that actually it calls the main method. That's it. If name is main, then call the main method. This is we explain here that everything now is in just methods, so we need to call the main method and it will start the application for us based on how we design that method. So I will add this here without indentation. So there is no indentation here. I want to make sure that we see this. Let me see. Okay, so there is no indentation. If underline to underline name, is main, then call the main method. Call the main method. There is no indentation, right? So it's in the same line as where we define the method. You want a main method that starts the application, knows where to start, how to direct through the application. And that's what we define inside the method called main. Now, let me start the application and we can run it. So, a Streamlit run app module 5 refactor. Okay, as a user, I will not experience any difference here. Everything that happened in the background. We didn't change any code. We just reorganized it. So I can see that everything feels the same way. To me, as a user, everything feels the same way. The only difference is the background, how we develop the application.